How's it going, everybody? UG here, and the Ret rework is finally out on PTR, and there are some crazy changes out right now. But before I go into the talents, there's just two huge just baseline things that Ret are getting right now. So first off, Divine Steed is no longer on GCD, which is so huge because now you can Freedom Divine Steed. It just clears up a lot of globals so that you don't have to waste as many globals trying to catch up to targets. The second thing is Divine Protection is now baseline for Ret, which is really cool. And after that, we just have all the talent changes, and there are a ton of them. As you can see, the tree looks way different. So right off the bat, I'm going to be talking about the actual Paladin changes first. So starting from the top, there really aren't too many, except they moved a couple of things around. Obduracy, how do you pronounce, is that Obduracy? That's such a weird word. But yeah, they moved that from over here up to here, which is pretty good because it was kind of weird having to get that as such a high talent because it's not really that good. It's 2% movement speed because the avoidance does not work in arena. After that, most of the little changes aren't going to matter too much. They moved Fist of Justice to the left side, so it's kind of next to your other CC abilities now. Kick is in the same spot. But then the first thing that they added is Punishment. Successfully interrupting an enemy cast with Rebuke, cast an extra Crusader Strike. Now, I'm not sure how good this is going to be, because I don't think Crusader Strike really hits that hard, unless they changed it. It hits for 10k, Templars. Oh wow, it's actually hitting kind of hard now. It's doing half of a Templars. That's kind of interesting. So this could actually be good because I think there's other things later on that can modify Crusader Strike a tiny bit. So this could actually be kind of cool. Just free extra damage and a bit of holy power generation whenever you get an interrupt. Not gonna really matter too much if you're playing against like double melee and stuff like that because there's not as much to kick except for maybe a Demon Hunter because you can kick I-Beam. After that, we have another new thing, which is Divine Storm heals you and nearby allies for 5% of your maximum health. This could be really good into matchups where you're gonna want to cleave a lot and you want to actually press Divine Storm. This will make it so that you have a lot more sustain for yourself and your teammates because 5% every time you use it could be pretty big because there's a lot of other things that you can use to kind of cheese out more Divine Storm, so you can kind of just use it over and over and over again. But then to the left, we have another new talent, which is Sanctified Plates. Armor increased by 20%, stamina increased by 10%, and damage taken from AoE effects reduced by 10%. So this is actually kind of cool, you know? It has a little baseline feint in it. It makes it so that we're going to be a lot tankier into melees and just have overall more health. This is going to be pretty good pretty much all the time, I think. I can think of many situations where you're going to not want to pick this up, but you're going to definitely want it into double melee especially. Next up, some other changes. I think they changed some of these so that they're only 1 instead of 2. I don't think any of these are really going to matter too much. They also gave us a new talent, which is when you're standing in your Consecrate, Wog does more healing, which is kind of good if you're playing a comp that actually uses Consecrate. So maybe some melee cleave where you're using the Conk procs could be kind of good in those, but most of the time I don't think this is going to be too helpful. Next up, they buffed Seal of Might, so now it gives increased mastery and strength, and it's not during wings, it's just baseline, which I think is going to be a lot better because it's just overall more base damage and not as much like bursty damage. Divine Purpose is the same, and Seal of Alacrity was also reworked a tiny bit. It still gives you haste, but it also now reduces the cooldown of your judgment by 0.5 for each time you put into it. So if you have both, a total of 1 second, which is just, you know, kind of helpful to have because judgment modifies a lot of your damage pretty hard. I think these two are the same. Then we get another talent, Base Armor. Whenever you use Wall, you get 20% increased bonus armor. This can be really good into melee cleaves, especially if it's low damage melee cleaves or Hunters, things like that. I'm wondering if it also gives your allies 20% bonus armor or if it gives only yourself 20% armor, because if it gives allies also, this could be really strong because if your healer is getting trained down by double melee and you're just constantly giving them increased armor, that can actually be really helpful for helping their survivability. We'll have to see how that actually works though. Next up, they reworked Blessing of Dawn and Blessing of Dusk. So now Blessing of Dawn makes it so that after you use 3 holy power generating abilities, you pretty much get a greater judgment, which is going to make it so your next holy power ability does 20% more damage. And I'm pretty sure it modifies with judgment. So you stack the two together, it's gonna make it your Templars hitting for an extra 40% damage, which is pretty big. And then they made it so that Blessing of Dusk is a 5% wall, which is pretty good, not bad at all. And then they also reworked the talent below it and also added another option. So first off, Seal of Order now makes it so that the 20% is now up to a 30% damage buff, which can be really big because once again, when you modify it with greater judgment, that makes it so that it is increased by 50%. That is really big. And Blessing of Dusk is pretty much the exact same thing. You get increased armor and Holy Power generating ability cooldown reduction. Wow, that was a mouthful. Next up, there's Fading Light, which is the other node for Blessing of Dawn. So what it does is it doesn't really change the Blessing of Dawn, it looks like. I'm not sure if that's an error or not, but right now it's the exact same as Seal of Order. it just changes what the Blessing of Dusk does. So now what it does is it causes holy power generating abilities to also grant an absorb shield for 20% of the damage or healing dealt. So this could actually be really good. Oh, just because you're not going to need the armor from Blessing of Dusk if you're playing into double caster or something like that. So getting the absorb shield whenever you use a holy power generating ability can be really big, especially because that probably considers things like Divine Toll and Wake of Ashes. Those things hit really hard. So if you're getting a 20% absorb shield for those abilities, you can actually get quite a bit of healing from those. So this is actually really good, huh? I'm wondering if it's going to just be baseline better than Seal of Order, especially if they have the same Blessing of Dawn effect. The Blessing of Dusk effect seems way better. I'll have to test this out actually and see how good it is. But next up, they made it so that Divine Toll is now on the Paladin tree. They're getting rid of Sanctified Wrath and Seraphim. I think that is good riddance. I hate Sanctified Wrath, and Seraphim is just kind of always OP whenever it's around. It mixes with that Ret can just do some crazy one-shot damage, and it's really hard to balance around. But now that it's just Divine Toll is a much more fun ability in my opinion. It's kind of the exact same thing as it was, you know, cast Judgment, hits 5 targets around you, and the Judgments deal more damage. It's a really good way to generate holy power really fast. It also hits pretty hard generally. Next up, they have the same old Divine Resonance that we had in our Retribution tree, but now there's a secondary node that you can use instead of it. What it does is it makes it so Divine Toll is a 45-second cooldown instead of a 60-second cooldown. I'm not sure if you're ever going to actually want this, because the 60-second cooldown just lines up with a lot of things a lot better. You know, if you're playing On Use or something like that, or if you're playing Final Wreck, it makes it so they line up together so you can get a lot of holy power generation during your burst. So I'm not sure the 45-second one's going to really be worth running all of the time. We'll have to see, but in PvP at least, I'm pretty sure that Divine Resonance is just going to be better. Next up, the last change for the Paladin side of the tree is Seal of the Crusader is now just making it so that your auto attacks deal 1,000 more damage, rather than making so that you have the RNG proc of buffing your next holy power spending ability by blah 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 blah. This is a lot better in my opinion because it just buffs the consistent damage, makes it so it's a lot less more RNG and just like big proc related, which is good in my opinion. But we'll have to see how much damage it actually ends up adding to you to actually see if it's going to end up being worth using most of the time. But that's it for the Paladin side, and you know, we got some pretty cool things. We got a lot of sustain kind of things that can kind of make it so we're living a lot longer, and we just got some like interesting abilities that actually work around on our Paladin side of the tree, which is pretty cool. But now let's go to the big changes, the Retribution side. So they kind of reworked everything. So first off, you got to start with Blade of Justice and Divine Storm. Then on the left, we have our first change already, which is Swift Justice. It's kind of the same thing as the Judgment reduced cooldown, but now it also reduces the cooldown of Crusader Strike, and also is 2 seconds instead of 1 second, which is significantly better. And the other option is it reduces the cooldown of Blade of Justice by 2 seconds, which is also pretty good. But the problem is with this one is a lot of times you have resets for Blade of Justice, so you're not really going to be caring about the cooldown reduction. So overall, I think the Swift Justice side is going to be a lot better. Next up, we have Holy Blade, which is increases the holy power generation of Blade of Justice. Next up, we have another change. We have improved Blade of Justice and improved Crusader Strike. So now we have the option of making it so that we have 2 charges of Blade of Justice or 2 charges of Crusader Strike. Actually, wait, let me see the damage. Are they similar in damage now? No, not at all. Crusader Strike is still way less than Blade of Justice. So it's kind of weird. I don't know when you'd ever go Crusader Strike instead of Blade of Justice. Kind of a weird one to me. Next up, we have some really cool ones, which is Final Verdict. They changed it so instead of being a capstone, it's one of the first things you can get. Once again, it looks like it increases the damage of your Templars by about 10% and increases the range to 12 yards. And also still gives you the chance of getting the Hammer of Wrath proc. On the same note is Just Cause Vengeance, which they made it so it now replaces Templar. So anything that modifies Templars is now going to also modify this. Also makes it so it's a lot less confusing having multiple abilities on your bars that do pretty much the same thing, just slightly different. It looks like it's not doing any more increased damage compared to Templars, but it still does the increased damage and stuns and also does the healing, which is pretty cool. So in situations where you're going to be getting trained down a lot and you need some more sustain, you're going to want to run this instead of Final Verdict. Then next is one of my favorite new talents is Light's Clarity. Flash Blight is instant now, and its healing is increased by 50%, but it has a 6-second cooldown, which is really good in my opinion. This could be a lot of healing. Right now, it looks like Flashlight is not healing too much, but it'll make it so it's about 40k heal. If you crit, it could be way more than that. And also just instant. You can use it on yourself, you can use it on your allies, just whenever you have a free global, just toss out a free heal. And then alongside that, we have Guided Prayer. When you are brought down to 25% health, you instantly cast a wall for 100% effectiveness. but it can only happen once per minute. So if you pair this up with Healing Hands, I think you get a significant heal when you get proc down below that 25%. I think this is going to not be good like most of the time, because I think the flash heal instant cast is going to be really good, but into situations where you're going to be dying in stuns a lot, getting a free like 100k heal just out of nowhere could be huge. Now I have to see how much it actually ends up healing for, because right now it says WOG, actually it could be a lot, because this says WOG heals for 34%, and then you get 60% increased buff because of Healing Hands, and then you get 100% buff because of Light's Clarity. So you could be getting like 100k non-crits to 200k crits if it's worded correctly. And this could be really strong. We'll have to, I need to test this one out once things come out. But yeah, I kind of showed it for a second there, but here is where Healing Hands is. It's pretty much the exact same thing, you know, increased WOG healing, and also reduces the cooldown of Lay on Hands by 6% when you use it at low HP. On that same tier, they put Unbound Freedom, but it's slightly nerfed because it no longer is undispellable. But this is kind of interesting because it makes it so that we have to trade healing for mobility, which is kind of interesting, honestly. I'm not really sure how else to phrase it, but you know, it's kind of weird, but we'll have to see how much WOG is doing and how comparative Light's Clarity is, because if you're always running Guided Prayer, you're going to probably always be running Healing Hands, because they just pair so well together, because you get max value of Healing Hands when you get the Guided Prayer procs. So we'll have to see, but you know, having Unbound Freedom no longer a PvP talent makes it so our PvP talents are a lot more versatile, because we have less talents that we just must have into certain situations now. Now we can just actually just change a talent really quick when we need double freedom. But I'm not sure how much we're going to actually be using this, because it is dispellable now. So that is a significant nerf into a lot of those comps that you're going to be running Unbound Freedom to, because the main reason you're using it, in my opinion, is for the undispellable part of it. So we will have to see. And then the last thing on this row is Righteous Cause and Art of War. We already know Art of War. Auto attack procs your Blade of Justice resets and makes it do increased damage. Actually, I don't know if it still does increase damage, but it just resets the cooldown of it at least. And Righteous Cause is another Blade of Justice reset, but it's whenever you cast Templars or some Templars replacement, it makes it so that they have a chance of resetting the cooldown of Blade of Justice themselves. So this could be really good into situations where you're not really going to get too many auto attacks off, like into Double Caster. So you're going to be able to just do Templars from a distance with your Final Verdict and get those Blade of Justice resets either way without actually having to get the auto attack. So that is actually pretty cool in my opinion. We'll have to see which one's better overall, but I think into melee, we're going to actually have uptime. Art of War is going to be better. And in situations where you aren't, Righteous Cause is probably going to be better. Let me just grab some talents so that we can get to the next tier. All right. Jurisdiction is now also no longer a PvP talent, which is kind of cool again. But the only problem is, though, it does not increase the range of your Hodge, which is kind of unfortunate. It does, however, increase the range of your Blade of Justice and your Final Verdict. And it also increases the damage. I think this is just going to be a must-have all the time just because of the damage buff. I think this is going to be a really good ability to get a lot of the time. Not only does it give you more damage, but it also gives you more range. That can be really good at double casters, because 20-yard range is actually pretty big. A lot of the times they're not going to be really sitting at 40 yards the entire time, especially with you running at them the entire time. It's going to make it a lot harder for them to dead zone you, make it so you can't get any damage out. So overall, this is going to be really good into double caster in my opinion, but it might just be good overall because the 10% damage buff on those two abilities is going to be really big too. Next up, we have Judgment of Justice. Judgment deals 10% increased damage. It also gives you 10% increased movement speed for 5 seconds and also slows the targets hit by it for 30 seconds. This is such a good ability. I am so glad they gave this to us. It's pretty much a toned down version of Long Arm of the Law, but it might end up actually being better because you have a slow on it and it lasts for 15 seconds. That's pretty long. And you can get out Judgments pretty quick, especially when you're playing Divine Toll. You're going to have that slow out permanently pretty much the entire game. This could be actually really annoying to play against, I'm going to be honest here. But yeah, this is a really cool ability. Next up, we have Imperium Power, same old, and Shield of Vengeance, same old. But here's the important thing to talk about. We have Shield of Vengeance and Divine Protection. That is 2 short CD walls available to us. They're both, wait, Shield of Vengeance is a minute cooldown now? Holy crap. That's insane. Oh, wait. That is actually so big. We have a 20% wall, and we also have a giant shield. Also, the 20% wall is going to get buffed by this, which I haven't talked about, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. This is actually really insane. Holy crap. Rets defense is actually pretty good now. This is wild. That tied with a lot of the self-sustain stuff that we're getting, Ret could be actually a kind of a monster coming out soon. Alright, next up we have Expurgation. So Expurgation was slightly reworked. It now causes Blade of Justice to burn for 67% of the damage it dealt over 6 seconds, and it's every time you use Blade of Justice. every single time. So you're going to be having this expectation debuff out a lot of the time. So it's pretty much just this talent says your Blade of Justice does 67% increased damage. That is really big, especially for consistent damage. I'm not sure how it's going to work when you have multiple instances of expectation up, because there is the new talent that makes it so that you have 2 charges of it. So I'm not sure if it's going to just like reset it or if it's going to add to it, making it so that it does more damage. We'll have to test that out later. But yeah, this is a lot of free consistent damage that we're just getting. This is actually pretty cool. I really like this change a lot. It just gives us more consistent damage, and it shouldn't like affect our burst damage too much because Blade of Justice isn't going to be hitting too hard. But I mean, I don't know, on retail sometimes I've hit like 80k Blade of Justices, and if I get an 80k Blade of Justice, that means I'm going to be getting like a 55k bleed out of that. On top of it, that is that is pretty cool. I am loving this change a lot. Next up, we have Zealot's Favor, which just increases our attack speed by 20%. So we pretty much just no longer have Zeal, and instead we just have this, which just buffs our attack speed by itself, just baseline always. So this is gonna make it so that we're gonna get our Art of War procs way faster, and it could pair really well with a couple of other talents that we have that we'll talk about in a little bit. And then next up, we have Consecrated Grounds, which is the slow consecration thing that we have right now. We still have that, I guess, which is kind of cool, I guess. Next up, we have the next row, which is Improved Judgment. Judgment now has 2 charges, so we can get like almost all our abilities having multiple charges. This is actually kind of cool. We have double Judgments, double Blade of Justices. We could go double Crusader Strike, but why would you do that when you could go double Blade of Justice, especially when you have Expurgation? And then other than that, you can go Judgment now gives you more Holy Power, which I don't know, we'll have to see which one's better, because I just think the second charge on Judgment is gonna be way better because it pairs really well with Greater Judgment. So we'll have to see, because there's also another talent that could make Balance Judgment better that's down here. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Then we have Tempest of the Lightbringer, which makes it so that when you use Divine Storm, it also sends out a second one that does 20% increased damage, which is honestly not that good in my opinion. I think it's pretty meh, at least in PvP. But if Judgment and Cleaving build is really good, then this could also be really strong. Next up, we have Teachings of the Light. It just increases our versatility by 2%, and our Judgment cooldown is reduced by another 0.5%. This is actually probably just gonna be something we get like all the time, because versatility is really good on Ret, because it has increased damage and healing tied into it, and damage reduction, which is all things that Ret usually really needs. So I think that this is going to be something that we're going to want to get a lot of the time. This seems really good. And then next up is Inquisitor's Ire. Every 3 seconds, gain 5% increase damage to your next Divine Storm, stacking up to 10 times. So that means every 30 seconds, your Divine Storm is going to be hitting for an increase of 50% damage, which can be a lot if you let it charge up properly. And look what we still have here, Empyrean Legacy. It makes it so that every 30 seconds, our Judgment makes it so that our next Templars does a Divine Storm, which is the exact timing that you need to make it so that you have max stacks of Inquisitor's Ire. So I think combining these two is going to be really good in situations that you can actually do it. You might not want to do it into a situation where you're going to be using the Jurisdiction talent all the times, because you might be ending up wasting some of your Divine Storms just on air. But this could be a ton of damage, because this also buffs it by 25%. I don't know which order it's going to be, but let's like do some math real quick. So this is gonna be 50% increase. Divine Storm is hitting for half of a Templar's right now when you're using Final Verdict. So then it's gonna be doing an extra 75% increased damage. So it's gonna be almost doing as much as a Templar. So it's pretty much gonna turn into, hey, every 30 seconds, I'm doing double Templar's Verdict on you, which is pretty good. Then the other option is Blade of Vengeance, which makes it so that your Blade of Justice is now AoE. And it looks like, no, it does the same damage, but it's just AoE now, just from free cleave damage that you can get for free, which is pretty cool. Now down to the next row, we have Crusader Strikes. This replaces your This makes it so that your Crusader Strike is now your auto attack. So I'm not sure how the damage is going to work, but I think it's going to make it so that a lot of your auto attacks just generate free holy power, which is kind of cool. It just kind of makes it so that you never have to press Crusader Strikes, which is going to be actually pretty good, especially when we're going to have 2 charges of Blade of Justice. This might just be a talent that you go all the time. You might not want into teams that you can't really hit melees, because you're not going to be getting too much value out of it. So it's going to just end up being kind of a dead talent. Other than that, we can go Blessed Hammers, which throws a hammer that spirals around you, deals just free damage every once in a while, and also generates some holy power. Also, it looks like it has 3 charges. I wonder if it gets boosted up to 4 charges if you have the Crusader Strike thing. But yeah, this could be good just kind of into an AoE thing. You know, think back into Legion when we had Divine Hammers. This is kind of just going to be kind of like that, just some AoE damage, and also generates holy power. Kind of just a kind of what I wish they were doing with Consecration forever ago. Just kind of turning into a passive aura that follows you around. This is like exactly what the change that they needed to make for that. Holy crap, this is actually really good if you're playing for like an AoE comp. Next up, we have Heart of the Crusader. Crusader Strike and auto attacks deal 10% increased damage and have a 10% increased critical strike chance. I wonder if this is probably going to work with the new Crusading Strikes. I wonder if it's going to be like double because it's auto attack and Crusader Strike. But overall, this is just going to be something kind of free to get. Free damage for your autos and Crusader Strikes. Not going to be too big, but it's something. Next, we have Blessed Champion. Crusader Strike hits an additional 2 targets for 85% increased damage, and you can get it up to 4 targets if you put both points into it. So this is going to be good for AoE situation. It's not really going to be too good into PvP. Actually, I'm kind of interested. Is this going to work with Crusading Strikes so that you kind of have AoE auto attacks? Because it says your auto attack is Crusader Strike now. So that means every modifier to Crusader Strike should happen to your auto attacks now. This is actually, this could be really cool. There's so much stuff I need to test out. Holy crap. This is so cool. There's so much cool shit. Next up, we have normal wings. And we also have Crusade, which now has a duration of 35 seconds, which is actually really, really good for this talent. This is like short ramp up time, so you're not gonna have as much max value as you would just, you know, instantly pressing wings and instantly get the damage. It's gonna have just kind of more overall value. And now that it lasts for 35 seconds, that is insane. And then you can pair it with Zealous Paragon, which procs off all sorts of other things, which makes it so that you can honestly get wings up for a really, really long time. You could get a bonus of up to 5 to 10 seconds, I'd say, with Zealous Paragon on Crusade, which could make it so that your Crusade lasts for up to 45 seconds, which is about how long it lasted when you had the Reckoning procs back in Legion, which is really cool. And then I think it still works with Reckoning, so if you have a Reckoning proc during it, you get an extra 12 seconds, so you could have so much Crusade. Holy crap. This is really cool. I think Crusade's gonna be really, really strong in this rework. I think we're going to be running it most of the time, honestly. Next up, we have Commanding Judgment. So this makes it so that our Judgment now hits 2 bonus targets for reduced effectiveness. But this could be really interesting because currently how Ret works is there's a really cheesy mechanic where when the double Judgment would proc, it would have a chance of bouncing back to your main target. So whenever you use Divine Toll, so you kind of get a double Judgment on your main target. And Divine Toll has increased damage on your judgments. So I'm wondering if it's going to make it way more consistent so that if you have 2 targets stacked up, use Divine Toll, you're hitting your main target for 2 judgments. That just 100% of the time. This could be really, really scary if that's how it works. Once again, something I really need to test out. Holy crap. Next up, we have Sanctify, which, you know, just makes so that our Consecrate does more damage if we use Divine Storm. It's reduced effectiveness. I think the reason for that is because of Divine Hammer, which replaces Consecration and it just has hammers spinning around you for 8 seconds. And it's not 100% uptime, it's about 50% uptime, but this could be kind of cool. Oh, it also generates 1 holy power. So like, it's literally Divine Hammers from Legion. That's actually kind of cool. I wonder how hard it's gonna end up actually hitting, because it says it does 11k, which is not too much. That is like a Crusader Strike, but it's AoE, so it could be good. And it's also buffed by probably Sanctify. And I wonder if Consecrated Grounds makes it so it's just like an aura that causes everyone around you had a 50% reduced move speed. Yeah, that could be kind of cool. But then if you pair it with the passive damage of Blessed Hammers, that could also be kind of cool. Like, we have a lot of really scary AoE options now in this rework. I'm going to have to see, like, we're going to be really good into melee cleaves, I think. Because we're just going to be sitting there just AoEing the crap out of them and also taking no damage because we have so much more armor from these 2 talents. And also we have a lot more healing, so we're not going to die as much. So, I don't know. This could be really cool. And then next up on the last thing for this row is Consecrated Blades, which is slightly different now. It just has a 40% chance to proc whenever you use your Blade of Justice rather than being off of Blade of Justice procs, which is a lot better consistently wise because you can get a lot more Blade of Justice out now. So just like, once again, another kind of like consistency buff, which I really like. It's not really as RNG reliant. It's a lot easier just to get out these Consecration procs more consistently. And other than that, you can also go Divine Hammers, which we just talked about a second ago. On to the next row. This is, I think, where the last capstone starts. So these are our like big talents now, the ones that are hard to get to. So starting off, we have Education. We have Adjudication. That's we're getting some weirdly named talents, I'm not gonna lie. Crit chance increased by 2%, just baseline, which is insane. Hammer of Wrath also has 5% increased crit chance, and also does 10% increased crit damage. So kind of just like more damage onto our Hammer of Wrath, which is kind of cool, because right now Hammer of Wrath is kind of a useless ability. Giving us more reason to press it is going to be really cool. And also the 2% crit chance, I think we're just going to probably be going this talent like all the time. It's just a really good talent. Next, on the next row, we have Divine Protection, reduces the damage you take by an additional 10%, and Shield of Vengeance protects you for 30% more damage. This is crazy. This makes it so that our wall is a 30% wall, and Shield of Vengeance just eats so much more damage. So rather than 100k, it is now 130k, and I think it, scales differently depending on how things are going. But yeah, that's a lot, especially because we have both of them, and they're both a minute cooldown. Wait, actually, crap. Where am I gonna put these buttons, man? I have them in the same spot because they replace each other. Where am I gonna put both of them now? Oh no. Oh, I can put one where Seraphim is. That actually works. But yeah, this is crazy. Holy, this is a lot of tankiness. Just like for free, because this is a really easy thing to get, because right after wings, so you're definitely going to be getting this every single time because it's just like a free point to get into, and also it's on the way to Wake of Ashes, which I think there is no chance we're not going Wake of Ashes. Next up, we have Commanding. Oh, I already went there. Next, after that, we have Swift Retribution, which just increases our haste by 2%, and also Blade of Justice and Hammer of Wrath cooldown is reduced by 1 second. So this is another one that I think that we're going to try to go into pretty much all the time, but I don't know how you're going to be able to get to it if you're not playing kind of the AoE build, because it's going to force you to go into something like Sanctification to get into it. So we'll see if this is going to be worth getting if you're not playing the AoE build. Let me pump some talents in just so we can see some more things easier. All right, next up in the next row, we have Vanguard's Momentum, which is the exact same thing as we had before, but instead of giving us a base Holy Power damage buff, it's now going to do 10% increased damage and also give us more Holy Power when used on targets in execute range, which is kind of cool. Next up, we have Blades of Light, which is kind of an interesting one. I'm not really sure how this is going to be working or if it's going to be worth getting. Crusader Strike, Judgment, and Hammer of Wrath now deal Holy Strike damage, which is a combination of holy and physical damage, I'm pretty sure. So that makes it so that Crusader Strike now deals some holy damage, Judgment now deals physical damage, and Hammer of Wrath now deals physical damage. So the main reason you would go into this is our next talent is Physical Presence. All physical damage you deal is increased by 20%. So this could make it so that these abilities all hit for 20% increase more damage. I'm not sure if that's going to be the exact math on it because it's Holy Strike, not just holy. But without that, it's going to make it so that our auto attacks, our Blade of Justice, and our Crusader Strikes are going to do 20% increased damage. But then if you get the talent, it's going to also make it so that your Judgment of Hammer of Wrath is also doing 20% increase more damage. So we're going to have to see, because this could make it so the Divine Toll hits really, really hard. So once again, this is just something that I'm going to have to test out extensively to see actually how much damage you're getting from it on each of those abilities. I don't know. I need to see what Holy Strike damage does. Can I do Holy Strike damage through Bob? Can I do Holy Strike damage through AMS? Is it reduced by magic damage walls? I need to test all these things out. I think because I'm probably going to make a separate video literally called How Holy Strike Damage Works. I'm going to do that for a number of different things also, just to give some clarity on how a lot of these things work. But for now, we're just talking about the talents. Let's just get on to the next talent already. So on this side, we have Final Wreck, which is on the same tier as Execution Sentence. So Execution Sentence is now a 30-second cooldown, which is kind of impressive. And it also hits pretty hard now, just baseline. It is doing just on base 11k more than Final Verdict, which can be which can vary depending on stuff that's happening in the game. But it also does the 10% increased damage on all abilities that are eaten by it. This could be pretty good. I'm not sure if it's gonna be better than Final Wreck, because Final Wreck's just a lot of like instant on-demand damage that you get. It does more damage than like the base Execution Sentence, but the Execution Sentence is gonna hit hard because it eats more damage up. It's kind of also weird though, because a lot of times you'd want Extra Sense to eat up a Final Wreck and just pair them together, make it so that it does really, really big damage. So I'm not sure how well it's going to be working kind of separately. We'll have to see, but I think both of them could be really good into different situations, but I feel like Final Wreck is just going to be better overall. But, you know, I could be completely wrong about that. Next up, for those talents, we have Executioner's Will, Final Verdict, and Justicar's Vengeance extend the duration of Final Reckoning and execution on targets by 1 second. So pretty much every single time you pump in a Templars, it makes it so that the debuff that you get from Final Verdict or Final Reckoning and Executions is 1 second longer. So this is making it so that you can eat up a lot more damage with Executions, also so they have the increased Holy Power damage for a longer amount of time with Final Reckoning. I think this is going to overall be better for the Executions part, because with Final Reckoning, it's kind of just in a situation where you want to get a lot of damage really quick, which is why you go this. So I don't think you're going to really want it with that. For that, you're going to want to go Divine Auxiliary, which makes it so that when you use Final Rec and Sentence, it makes it so that you get 3 Holy Power for free. So pretty much it just makes it so that Execution is completely free, and also Final Reckoning just makes it so that you instantly cast a Templars right after without having any Holy Power beforehand. This could be really good, but a lot of the times I don't know if you're actually going to be running it all the time. Because before you use Final Rec, because a lot of times your go is going to be, you know, you Final Rec, you Divine Toll, Templars, Wake, Templars, and that's your big one-shot go with your Final Rec. So I don't know if you really care about the 3 free Holy Power. It's going to be really good if you're playing something like Crusade, because if you get 3 Holy Power, you pop a Sentence, you have Crusade up, then you have 3 more Holy Power, so you already have 6 of the 10 stacks done in 2 globals with Crusade, which is going to be really good for ramping that up really fast, and also make it so that you can get your max damage out of Sentence really quick on like use of Crusade. So yeah, this is going to also be something really interesting that I'm going to want to test out and see which actually is going to end up being worth. But I'm not sure if you're going to really want either of these 2 talents. We'll have to actually see. If you get any of them, it's probably going to be Executioner's Will, honestly, because the cool thing is it might make it so that Sentence is a lot more unpredictable, because they never know what's going to actually tick, because it's going to be constantly increasing duration until it actually procs. So it could catch people by surprise who just think it's going to be like, oh, in 8 seconds it's going to hit me for really big damn. Next up, we have High Lord's Judgment, which makes it so that when you use Judgment, it puts the Greater Judgment debuff on the target for the next 2 Holy Power abilities you use, up to 3 if you put both points in. So I'm not sure if this is going to be like where you go, because there's a lot of ways to get Judgments out a lot faster now. You might not actually need to go this, and I think Judgment still is hitting pretty hard. Actually, it's not really hitting that hard anymore. It's about doing as much damage as a Crusader Strike. So we'll have to see, because if you pair this with the Judgment gives you 1 more Holy Power talent, it could be really good, because then you won't really need to be keeping Judgments rolling all the time to get the increased Templars Verdict damage. But if you're running the 2 charges one, you're really not going to really want this too often, because you're going to always have Judgments available to you for the most part. You might want to pump like 1 talent into it if you have a free one, but overall I don't think this talent's going to be super amazing, but I could be completely wrong. Next up, we have Wake of Ashes, which is being reduced to 30-second cooldown, and other than that, it looks like it's going to be pretty much the exact same thing, which is pretty good, because now we don't have any ways to reset the cooldown of it. We don't have the Art of War replaced with 8 Wake of Ashes procs. Overall better, but I think the 30-second cooldown is really good too, because we'll have it pretty much for every single stun DR. We'll have pretty consistent burst damage on our goes. Next up, there are 2 talents. There's Seething Flames, which causes Wake of Ashes to kind of like hit 3 times with like reduced damage each time. I don't really know how this is going to actually work, because it doesn't really show the damage properly. If it's doing like quite a bit more damage than Wake of Ashes, this could be pretty good. But overall, I am not super sure right now. The other one is Wake of Ashes now causes a burn to be applied to the target for pretty much 70% of Wake of Ashes damage, which I think is going to actually be really strong. I think we're going to actually go Truth Wake like almost all the time now, because this is a lot of free damage. Overall, these Wake changes actually look pretty good, especially with this Truth Wake one, and that can be really strong when you pair it with this other talent. Increases the damage of your periodic effects by 50%, and also increases the damage of your fire damage by 10%. So this is going to increase the damage of Wake of Ashes and Truth Wake by 10%, and then Truth Wake is going to be buffed again by Penitence, for, oh, 30%. That is actually a ton. Holy crap. So then you could pair that up with Expurgation also, which is going to cause Expurgation to be hitting 30% increase of damage, which is going to make it hit for like almost as much as your Blade of Justice is hitting for. This is a lot of free damage. Actually, wait, there's even more things to buff it, because we also have Burning Crusade, which causes your Blade of Justice and Expurgation to now deal Radiant Fire damage, which is going to get buffed also by the Searing Light, which is increases the damage overall by another 10%, which is a lot of fucking damage. Holy crap. So we're going to have to see how hard it's actually going to be hitting. When you're pairing this, especially with the AoE Blade of Vengeance, this is going to be really strong, because you're going to having this burn out on everyone around you. It's going to be doing a ton of damage, I think. This could be really strong. And the other damage makes it so that our Blade of Justice and Expurgation now do Holy Strike damage, which could also be pretty great, because I feel like it's going to be buffed by our Mastery a bit. We'll have to see. And but yeah, that's about it. So overall, it seems like we're gonna have the ability to go like more range, single target focus spec on the like left side kind of here, and then on the right side we're gonna have a bunch of like AoE cleavy stuff. But I think if you combine the two a tiny bit, there's gonna be a really gross one where you're gonna have a lot of like AoE abilities that actually buff your single target and just makes it so you have a ton of damage just overall. So these changes are really cool. The one thing that, you know, they said that they might do that they didn't actually do is they did not give us Heroic Leap, which I'm kind of sad about. That would have been really funny to have on Ret. But, you know, it's fine that we don't. We do have increased mobility with the, where is it? Judgment of Justice. I think we're going to be going this pretty much baseline, because this is now our only slow, since we no longer have Hammer of Hindrance. It's this and Consecrated Grounds, which I think is going to be really good for the AoE build, because it's going to be up pretty consistently with your Divine Hammers, because I don't think you're really going to be caring about the actually happening Consecration down anymore that we have Divine Hammers. But yeah, overall, I think these are really good changes. It's a lot less like big one-shot bursts, it seems, and a lot more consistent damage that we have. But we still have a lot of big one-shot bursts, like when you pair up Greater Judgment with Seal of Order plus Final Rack, you're going to be getting a lot of damage out in a go. Then I also need to test out the interactions of Divine Toll plus Commandant Judgment, because that could also be really strong. Yeah, look forward to a lot more videos talking about the PTR. I'm going to probably be doing a number of videos talking about like specific things, just like in more depth, rather than just talking about everything in general. And then I'll probably also make kind of videos on a couple of builds that are going to be really good once this actually comes out. But it's kind of hard to tell right now, because this is really early on. We don't know what's going to be, we don't know how strong everything's going to be on release, so we will have to see. But yeah, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace.